Today's June 3rd, and today's quote is entitled, "Manage to be managed." If you don't manage your emotions will manage you. A lot of times devotees or people will say, this is how I feel, I can't let it go, I can't feel any other way. It's not true. So I like to say, be responsible for how you feel. If you feel a certain way, then there's two things. Be responsible for how you act, because you don't have to act just in a certain way just because you feel that way. You can control your actions. And also you can take responsibility for how you feel, because if you have feelings that are not conducive to what it is you want to achieve, not conducive to a relationship, not conducive to your devotional service, then manage those feelings. You can let those feelings go. You don't have to hold on to them. And a lot of us feel like, no, I have to hold on to them. I can't let them go. That's not true. You can. Maybe it's something you haven't learned to do. But if you don't learn how to do that, if you don't learn how to manage your emotions, manage how you feel, not allow people to control your feelings, then what happens is you become managed by your emotions. And then you do things you don't want to do. And you end up in places that you don't want to be. And if emotional management is kind of like perhaps another word as for self-control or self-discipline. And so it's just a more subtle form of self-discipline. We're used to talking about self-control in a more obvious way, controlling my tongue, controlling my eyes, controlling what I hear, and so forth. But emotion is the subtle form of thinking. So as we say control the mind, when we say control the mind, we also mean control the emotions. That's part of controlling the mind. And it's just as important, or in many ways more important, because without emotional control, we may end up saying and doing things which damage us and damage other people, and for which we would later regret. And so if you think about emotional control in terms of things like forgiving, in terms of things like kindness, compassion, then that means that sometimes we're not treated well, and we have to respond in a positive way. We have to be able to not act just on the instinct in the moment, but be able to process it and understand that instinct is not how I want to act. And then elevate ourselves to a higher emotion, to a more equipoised position or a more positive position, where we can even look at the person who hurt us and think, what's going on in their life? Maybe they're suffering. Maybe they need help. So that's where emotional control comes in. It basically gives you control of almost every aspect of your life. And we were saying yesterday about being the right person if you're going to get married. And so without emotional control, you enter a relationship, your emotions can go wild and go crazy. And you can drive another person crazy because you can't control your emotions. And they'll do things that disturb you and you won't know how to process it. And then you'll mistreat them, or you make them feel bad, or you'll belittle them. You make them feel something's wrong with them. And then they start feeling bad in your presence. They feel degraded in your presence. They feel worse in your presence than they did before they knew you. And it creates so many horrible situations. So emotional control is super important. And you may ask me, well, how to control your emotions? And the simple answer is control them. It's not a complicated thing. It's a decision we have to make. Okay, if I'm angry, am I going to express it? If I have a certain feeling, am I going to express it? Am I going to control it? Am I going to process it? Am I going to try to see it in Krishna consciousness? And a lot of times devotees say, I can't do it, I can't do it. Honestly, that's a lie. You can do it. Maybe you don't know how to do it, but at least start at the point that you can do it, and you have to learn how to do it. And then pray to Krishna to guide you. Study Prabhupada's books. Mature yourself. See emotional maturity simply as a process of self-discipline, of mind control, of sense control. That just because I feel a certain way doesn't mean I have to express those feelings. Manage those feelings, mature those feelings, be a mature adult, respect people, deal with them nicely, even if you don't feel like it, still do it. That's emotional maturity. It's so important in relationships, and so important in relationship to ourselves, just to manage our own emotions so we can be focused on our Krishna consciousness.